Hello once again, grain traders. I'm meteorologist Sean Sublette for CropProphet, and it's time for the forecast of the forecast, discussion, and verification for this Monday, August 18th, 2025. This is when we go back and review our forecast of the forecast from Friday of what the ECMWF ensemble mean would look like on Monday morning. So now we have the data to go back and evaluate. So when we turn the clock back to Friday, on our forecast of the forecast, we had a very high probability on Friday that the model on Monday would come in warmer than normal across a good part of the central, southern, and eastern Corn Belt and extending back here across the northern Rockies. Secondary area of a probability that 40, 50, 60% likelihood that the model would come in cooler than normal in New England, and catching that pretty well with the actual model this morning showing the lower than normal or cooler than normal probabilities in New England, and actually picking up this kind of dual nature of those higher probabilities pretty well, meaning we've got higher than normal anomalies forecast regarding temperature here across a good part of the Ohio Valley and the Corn Belt, and then there's much higher than normal probability or higher than normal temperature anomaly forecast in the ECMWF ensemble mean across the northern Rockies. Now, going into week two, we indeed had this very broad area of 40 to 50% likelihood that the model would come in cooler than normal from the Great Lakes and back into New England. But remember, where we have the white shade on the map, we're not meeting that 40% threshold of warmer, cooler, or near normal, suggesting there is a lot of uncertainty in the forecast, especially here in days 8 to 14, that week 2 forecast. Had a couple of pockets where it was coming in cooler than normal, 40 to 50% likelihood, and warmer than normal, 40 to 50% likelihood. So when we actually look at the ECMWF ensemble mean this morning, while it does do a good job picking up on that cooler than normal signal across the Great Lakes in New England, as a testament to that uncertainty, we do see cooler than normal in the forecast as far south as Kansas and Missouri. Turning to precipitation, when we go back to Friday's forecast of the forecast, this 50 to 60% likelihood that the model in the week 1 period, days 1 through 7, would come in drier than normal for a good part of Missouri, Kansas, Oklahoma, and even into northern Arkansas. And then the smaller but noticeable area, 40 to 50, some places pushing 60% probability that the model would come in wetter than normal across the western Great Lakes and extending into northern stretches of Wisconsin. Then we look at the actual model this morning. That area of wetter than normal probabilities, if you will, has shifted farther north toward the arrowhead of Minnesota and the upper peninsula of Michigan. But our forecast of the forecast did a very good job across the south central plains with this drier than normal signal showing up in the actual model this Monday morning for most of Missouri, Kansas, and southward into Oklahoma. And we still see it drier than normal in the actual model this morning in days 1 through 7, that week 1 forecast across the core of the Corn Belt. Now into week 2, days 8 to 14, to emphasize lots more uncertainty here in the week 2 forecast with regard to precipitation. That's why we have so much white on the map. It's a very high uncertainty, nobody meeting that 40% threshold until you get to the high plains of Kansas and Nebraska and into the central part of the Rockies, where this was 40% likelihood that the model would come in wetter than normal, which our forecast of the forecast did a good job pointing out. But to really emphasize how much uncertainty there is in the week 2 or days 8 to 14 forecast, we don't have especially high anomalies, dry or wet, across the core of the Corn Belt. It does suggest a little drier than normal into week 2, which is why there may be some concern in the markets about a flash drought. But if it is cooler than normal in week 2, those fears just may be a little bit unfounded. So that's our forecast of the forecast, discussion, and verification for this Monday, August 18th, 2025. I'm meteorologist Sean Sublette for CropProphet, and we will talk to you again on Friday.